Actually, I assumed that there would be a lot of Hammer on this list, and the more I looked into it, the more I thought, no, there are more nightgowns.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know if there's a category we've ever done where somebody somewhere doesn't go, what about Leprechaun?
The dress is like so impractical because she has to be followed by this other person the entire time, but it's like such high impact. I feel like it belongs at number one for me.
Well, welcome in. I guess it's Fashion Week on the Fright Club podcast, and welcome to it. We're going to celebrate. This is the Fright Club podcast, and she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from madwolf.com, now embarking on our second decade of the Fright Club. And boy, we had a time last time out live at Gateway Film Center as we had our 10th anniversary special extravaganza Fright Fest.
Yeah, it was crazy, and we want to thank Peter Tonguette of the Columbus Dispatch for coming out and covering that. There's a big piece in the Sunday Columbus Dispatch.
Which is, as we tape this, today.
It is
and
today.
we haven't been able to find a copy.
No.
We went looking for one, and we
Right.
haven't been able to find a copy yet, so we're going to go on a hunt after we're done taping here.
You know what? We also want to thank Ashley Kimmel of Columbus Underground for covering it.
Yep.
And we want to thank everybody who came out. And, of course, we want to thank Chris Hamill and the Gateway Film Center for being such lovely hosts.
For 10 years.
These many years.
Man, it's crazy. But we had a lot
and
of fun.
for getting us finally The Black Cat,
Yeah.
which, as we've mentioned a number of times, we have been trying to program that movie for probably 4 years. And Chris got us a gorgeous 4K restoration of that movie, which is such a weird movie.
And people loved it.
They did love it. It's hard not to love. And, of course, our topic was unexpected guests, which is a fun, common theme in horror. So that was a fun thing to explore. Maddie thought that maybe Barbarian and also Who Invited Them.
Yeah, those are good.
And real recent ones. They
Good
would have been
choices.
good. And Dustin was just shocked not to have heard anything about Leprechaun.
Oh, Leprechaun. I don't know if there's a category we've ever done where somebody somewhere doesn't go, what about Leprechaun? So, yes, those are appreciated choices. Thank you. Thank you for all the feedback.
Yeah, and just thanks for coming out, for having a good time with us. It was super fun.
And congrats to all the prize winners, man. We gave away some
We
swag.
did give away some swag.
Good stuff there.
Yeah, that A24 set, that's the best. That's my favorite one.
It was nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
All right, well, we'll try it again next year for our 11th annual
That's right.
extravaganza. But we're moving on, and we're talking about gowns, best gowns in horror, and we've got a great special guest. And how did you guys...
First of all, we want to introduce our special guest, Melissa Limartina, who's also known as Aurora Borealis, the host of Shocktail Hour. And we met at Nightmares Film Festival last year, this past October. We won one of her spectacular prizes, one of her games at her show, and we want to thank her for coming on and thank her for this. Actually, the topic was her idea.
So
Thanks
welcome.
for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so good to see you both again.
You too. So it was your idea for gowns.
It was. Hope presented some very good ideas. I believe one was tank tops, which
Yes.
was intriguing. Not to spoil perhaps a future
Could be.
list.
Could be.
But I thought evening gowns, and the reason I thought was because of a couple of my choices on the list, because they immediately popped in my mind, and I thought, let's do evening gowns.
Well,
Which
this
is a
good.
fun idea, yeah.
It is a fun idea, and I know right away I'm going to learn some things because I was behind the eight ball right away about just what constitutes an evening gown. So maybe as we go through this, you could educate people like me, like, okay, that's not a gown, that's a dress, that's a I don't know what.
Well, mostly we would go back and forth, and I would go, well, that's really a prom dress.
Okay. Yeah.
That's really a wedding dress.
Okay. So I'm going to mostly
That
listen
is
and
a
learn.
pantsuit, George.
Pantsuit. Now, pantsuits I know. I take umbrage. Pantsuits I know. Okay. Well, this is good, though. So you've got a few... There's a little bit of overlap in both your lists, and there's also... Is there overlap on sort of the honorable mentions?
A little bit. I think that we both had a lot of love for The Hunger, and basically every single thing that Miriam Blaylock wears. Also, The Love Witch. I think that was... I just assumed we'd have The Love Witch on here. I don't think she wears any evening gowns.
See, that's where it
however.
started for me because
Right.
that was the first movie I thought of. And then you're like,
Because
no.
every single thing she wears is absolutely glorious.
but not gowns.
Oh yeah,
No.
so fashionable. And there are some things in the Love Witch that I think start looking a little like evening gowns, but really they're more like dressing gowns. For example, like there's this great shot of her doing a ritual and that black getup. But that really
Yeah.
feels more dressing gown than evening gown. And
Yeah.
I struggled with that too.
Actually, I assumed that there would be a lot of hammer on this list. And the more I looked into it, the more I thought, no, they're more nightgowns.
Oh, 100%.
If we do a nightgown episode, hammer is all over it. But the evening
it's
gown's
the
a little
all
weaker.
hammer. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I also thought, I know we both thought about Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula,
Yeah.
but then Lucy's a little too wedding dress. And I
Yeah.
thought, as far as wedding dresses, I thought of Ready or Not.
Right.
Because that's such a great look
yeah.
as well, but a wedding dress. And I
Right.
didn't want to start blurring the lines too much.
Yeah. And then for me, also, Blood and Black Lace. I thought that I would go with, actually, I thought that I'd have more Giallo on here. But everything really that anyone wears in Blood and Black Lace is pretty spectacular. And then a couple, here's some that I thought about that I didn't put on here because they're really not horror movies. One is Mia Sara's black gown in Legend when she dances.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Love
Yes.
that. And then similarly, Jennifer Connelly's white gown in Labyrinth. That's pretty spectacular. And then Kristen Stewart's Sparkles in Personal Shopper, which is kind of a ghost story, but it's a far cry from horror. So I didn't finally make them. They didn't make the final list. And you had one of my favorites that I didn't even think about was made your almost list.
Oh, okay, because I want to hear which one is one of your favorites there. So I thought, of course, of several looks in Death Becomes Her, because that's another one that is
yeah.
great action start to finish. I thought about Angela in Night of the Demons,
That's the one.
but is that the one?
That's the
And
one.
I thought not quite an evening gown, but it's this great like punk party dress look, but I thought maybe not an evening gown. Helena Bonham Carter in Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
That movie is not good, but she is just like serving looks from start to finish. Even when she's all burned up, she's still wearing that dress. She's bald. She looks horrible, but she looks beautiful still. And then Amy in Fright Night.
Yes, I'd not thought about that,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's a good dress. And then with all the teeth, that's a great
Yeah.
transformation.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good stuff. Well, those are all not quite
Right.
make the list. So that means somewhere on this list, Leprechaun makes an appearance, I guess.
Absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see how that works out. So, all right. So you want to dive in? Just go back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll start with your number 5.
Okay. What you got?
Okay. My number 5 is Lucille's red gown in Crimson Peak, played by Jessica Chastain. We see her at the piano in this beautiful red gown, surrounded by people who are all in pastels, the men in black tuxes, but she is like this drop of blood in the middle of this ballroom, especially when Edith and, oh my goodness, what's the fiance's name?
Thomas.
So, right, Thomas. So Edith and Thomas are dancing. And as they're dancing, you have this wide shot of the ballroom, and it's like this pool of blood encroaching in that ballroom. And it's absolutely beautiful. I also love just how skeletal that dress looked. It was designed to look like much of her wardrobe in that movie, to look like an exoskeleton in contrast to Edith's flowier look. Edith has a more fashionable look for the time. She's a Gibson girl, where Lucille is actually outdated for the time, which is very interesting in terms of her character. And side note, when I first saw that movie, I became obsessed with Edith's hand clasped belt. And Chris got me a recreation of that for Christmas one year. I actually wore it yesterday out to dinner.
Wow.
Yeah. But Lucille is my number 5 in that red gown.
Well, it's Del Toro, so it's going to look fantastic.
Right.
But I can't think of Crimson Peak without thinking of the time that Hope spoiled the ending for everyone.
We did.
No.
I did. I pointed out one moment that conjures another moment in an older Del Toro movie without thinking to myself, "Oh, you just gave away the end of the movie."
And we had a crowd of people, and you just heard this audible groan.
Yeah, because it wasn't out yet. I had reviewed it, so I'd seen a preview of the movie, and was just to a crowd of people at a Fright Club. I wrecked the movie for all of those
yay,
people.
I guess.
Yeah, thanks for picking that scab, George.
Well, I want to hear your number 5.
My number 5 is really the only modern film on my list, and it is Jessie, Elle Fanning. It's the blue dress in the Neon Demon. There are a lot of great looks in this film,
yeah,
of course,
yeah.
because it's a fashion. They're all high fashion models, and front to back, all of them look so cool the whole time. But this blue dress, it's just this, shiny, strapless, gorgeous kind of short blue dress, and she wears it, of course, covered in blood. She's covered in blood, but she also has these beautiful little gems like on her face and throat. And her hair is sort of piled up in this kind of angelic way. And Wendy Ruffin, of course, his movies all look stunning.
They do, yeah.
Anyway, and each one looks so different than the one before. Like if you compare Drive and that kind of beachy neon to Bronson, which was all sort of earth tones and grays and prison, and to kind of juxtapose the kind of kabuki style makeup they use. I mean, what he does visually in films is amazing, and it's so boldly colorful in this one. And I think that's what I like the most about the blue dress and then all of the blood that's on her. It's just really it's wildly beautiful.
It's even more amazing to think that he has said in interviews that he is colorblind.
Oh my God.
Which is amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
We had a colorblind DP on Call Girl of Cthulhu, the movie that Chris and I met making. And it's beautiful. And it has wonderful contrast of light and color with pink and green. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And then we thought he was joking at first when he said he's colorblind. And he's not. It's incredible.
Yeah. Amazing. And the other little bit I found out about this movie, Luca Guadagnino has actually described the Neon Demon as the real remake of Suspiria, which is interesting to think about.
It
You
is.
can see that, yeah. Yeah, but it is certainly colorful. So the blue dress, our number 5.
That's our number 5.
Okay, good start.
Yeah.
So number 4.
Number 4 for me is Katrina, played by Grace Jones in Vamp. The first time we see her, she is so unlike all the other dancers in this strip club. She's instantly compelling, totally out there dancing on this sort of chair, sort of human figure without a head. She comes out in this, she's crouched down, this red column of spandex, the black elbow length gloves with the nails attached to them. And it's just a vision. And then she starts unzipping it, and there's a zipper on the one sleeve and then a zipper that goes all the way down from the other sleeve, all the way down to the bottom of the gown. And it's so beautiful, just as a function meets form sort of moment. And then, of course, what's underneath is this intricate body painting with these spirals of metal that you're wondering how those are even attached to her body as she does this amazing, seductive dance. It's just a show-stopping moment for me.
I think that may be of all of Fright Club history, that may be the first time we've mentioned Vamp.
Which is insane.
Wow.
I could be wrong.
No, I think you might be right.
Wow.
Yeah. And you're right, though. And she, you knew she was going to cut a phenomenal figure no matter. Like going into it, you're like, okay, well, clearly she's going to walk into any room ever on planet Earth, and that's going to be the only thing you can look at. But what they did to go, oh, you have no idea. I mean, it was just breathtaking. And, you watch it and thought, yeah, I'd let her kill me. Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure, absolutely.
100%.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Your Majesty, whatever you'd like right now. Yeah, it is. And she looks great, of course, the whole film. But the way they introduce her, you're like, wow.
Okay, we'll move it over to our number 4. What are you looking at?
So I knew that Roger Corman would have a place on this list. And you know what I think is funny about that is he's so well known for being a penny pincher. So I don't know where the costumes came from, but he costumed his leads quite well. So this one I chose Barbara Steele from as Elizabeth Medina from The Pit and the Pendulum. And there are a number of glorious costumes that she wears in this. But the one I love is a red dress. So it's like it's this beautiful Victorian gown, and on top of it, it's almost like a vest that goes all the way down of red. And I think it's because you get a sense in this gown that she's not the innocent creature that Vincent Price believes her to be. And it's the first hint that she's really the villain in the movie. And Barbara Steele, I love her in everything, all the things. She's always so glorious, but especially when she's evil. You know, she's just got that face that's like, oh, I'm going to kill someone and I'm going to love it.
And you can always count on red to be symbolic. When you see red stand out so much, like, oh, that means that's just not happenstance.
Right, because she's got this gorgeous white gown in this as well when she's being painted. But that, again, it's pretending that she is something she isn't. But when she comes out in the red, you're like, yeah, shit is going to get real.
Yeah, it's always, and you can expect a film like The Pit and the Pendulum to have those sorts of adornments. I mean, you make a good point about Roger Corman being a penny pincher, but it really doesn't look like it here at all.
No, the whole movie looks great, and it's one of, I think, it's a credit to his genius, because you know that they probably shot it on a soundstage with props from somebody else's movies.
Oh yeah.
Or his own other movies, but it you know, you're completely sucked into the atmosphere that he creates, and the walled up dungeon areas and stuff. Yeah, it looks amazing.
And you have to throw in, has nothing to do with the evening gowns, but they added that. The original film did not have that prologue, and they added that to pad the running time, and it features Sid Haig. Always good to get a Sid Haig reference. So that is that's our number four. Number four, so The Pit and the Pendulum. So we're moving up to number 3.
All right, keeping it moving. My number 3 is Julia, played by Claire Higgins in Hellraiser 2. She is a fashion icon in this movie. I have a tattoo of her in her skinless white suit look, drinking her Chardonnay from the beginning of the film. But for this, of course, we're focusing on evening gowns. And so I chose this pastel purple that she wears. And for me, this pick is less about the gown because it's pretty simple. It's just this sort of sheath dress with a cross of fabric up at the top at the neckline. But it's such a contrast, this pastel color. We're talking about colors signifying villains, but this could not look less like a villain as far as a wardrobe pick. But I love the way that it's juxtaposed with her actions when she's wearing it, like ripping out Frank's heart. She doesn't get a drop of blood on that dress. Of course, that great moment when she's struggling in the hallway not to get sucked back. And she, of course, we think she's getting saved, but no, her skin and the entire gown come tearing off of her body in one fell swoop in a fabulous moment, which is absolutely wonderful. So this dress goes through a lot. And I know it's a old movie, but I still don't want to spoil any endings. So I don't want to say where the dress ends up in the end, but the dress has a journey of its own. And I love that. It's so wild to me that this character was supposed to be the villain of the Hellraiser series. But of course, Pinhead, an iconic look in his own right, of course, took that spot. I would have loved to have seen a Hellraiser series with Julia as this evil queen of hell, but that's not what we got. But we do have her just serving evil, serving looks in those first 2 movies. And I'm grateful for that.
Well, 2 things. Number one, that's great because I always love to talk about the Hellraiser franchise. And if you can and you don't mind, can you send us a picture of the tattoo?
Yeah, sure. It's by Stacey Martin. She's based in New York. She also did. I have a tattoo of Lord Summer Isle from The Wicker Man that she did as well. So I'll just send you pictures of both of those.
Of his own.
Very nice.
100%. I love him.
All right, we got a number 3.
Well, I want to say real quickly, though, about Julia, because because she is, I loved that she got to be so much more of a prominent character in Hellraiser 2, because she's outside of the Cenobites, she's easily the best character in the first movie. I mean, she's so wonderful, and she does look cool in the first one, but like they really lean into that in the second one, because every single thing she wears is just chef's kiss. It's perfect. And so I'm with you. I mean, but I love Pinhead. And the Cenobites are such a fascinating concept for villains, but she never really got her due. I mean, 2, it came close. It came close to really showcasing her, but she's glorious. I love her.
Good stuff. That's Hellraiser 2.
Yep.
So we've got our own number 3.
So I'm going to go back to the movie that I spoiled those many years ago.
Oh, I don't remember. Can you tell that story?
and mine is, and I did go back and forth because it's that party. It's that, party where they introduce and everybody looks so glorious. Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
I chose Edith and her sort of buttery white gown.
Well, see, that just goes to show you guys chose different characters. That shows you how gorgeous this movie looks in the costuming.
Yeah, it really. And you said it earlier that Guillermo del Toro, all of his movies look so spectacular, and every detail is so incredibly sort of imaginatively thought out. But I don't think we have fashion isn't exactly I think in play in his other films as it is here. It's the look of the costumes always, but I mean, Pan's Labyrinth, it's not like it's wartime. It's often wartime in his movies. But in this case, you just got to see, especially in this, at this party, everybody, men, women, everybody looks so stunning. And then here's little kind of mousy Edith really standing out in this just pooling sort of buttery, beautiful satin gown. And it's nice because she, compared to Jessica Chastain's character, she really is a bit mousy. And she's the whole rest of the movie, she's kind of battling to not see herself as mousy, particularly compared to her new sister-in-law. And I love that, but at first we get to see her in sort of all of her glory, so we can see what she will eventually, hopefully, be able to reclaim as the movie progresses.
Well, talking about the look of the film, Del Toro has said that he wanted it to look like a Mario Bava Technicolor movie.
Oh, there you go.
And actually, the costumes specifically, some of them feature-length turn-of-the-century fabrics.
Oh,
and trim, so they got really, almost got Robert Eggers with it.
Yeah.
But it paid off, and that is number 3 for us, Edith character, the white gown in Crimson Peak. All right, we're into the top 2s.
We are, and we have the same dress at number 2.
Oh, nice.
I know, which I love because this is one of my favorite movies anyway. And it was one of the first things that popped into my mind when you were asking me what other categories I might want to explore. This was the dress that gave us this category. And that is the Countess Bathory in Daughters of Darkness in her silver, but it's really a slight ombre because down at the bottom of it is a very dark, almost black sequin gown. She comes in through that French door. She's perfectly framed in that door. She's got that pop of red lip, those red nails. We move into the candlelight and the light is just bouncing off of those sequins. Absolutely beautiful. Just everything in that movie is beautiful. All 3 lead women in that movie, they all are completely different in style, but all are flawless in their looks. And I don't want to dominate the conversation about it, so I want you to go and pile praise on her as well.
Yeah, this dress was the first one I thought of when you recommended this category. And I thought, and then actually I went back and thought about all of her looks in this because also she's got one this sort of red, sheer, beautiful, billowy. I mean, every garment in this movie on all 3 of them because because they really do. They all have very specific personalities that are defined by their wardrobes. But the wardrobe everywhere in this movie is just stunning. But yeah, Delphine Seyrig, who is perfect in this film as Countess Bathory, she's just so she's just so effortlessly regal and weary and seductive. She's so perfect in this movie. And that, you're right. And I love that it's kind of like a turtleneck as well. Like it's a really unusual. It's an unusual gown, this sparkles.
Yeah.
But it is the way that the candlelight bounces off of it that makes her look really supernatural, like ethereal and stunning. And she's another one where I would be like, yes, you can kill me. You may.
Oh, without question. Absolutely. That overhead shot when she and Valerie are drinking Stefan's blood and she's just like draped over the carpet. I'm just like, yes, please. Like, I will be Stefan 100%. And talking about it being a turtleneck and really covering her entire body,
Yeah.
I think is part of what makes that dress so effective, because like you said, it makes her look supernatural and it makes her entire body glow in this otherworldly way. And what's interesting is just how commanding a presence she is. But when she's wearing that gown, so much of what she's saying is about her vulnerability. You know, she keeps asking and pleading to be loved, which is so fascinating for that character, that you have this like flawless creature who is just desperate to be loved and cared for and so insecure about it.
Yeah, it's one of the all-time great horror movie performances, I think. She's just perfect in that film.
And I love the contrast of the look of the film with the sound of the film, all the different accents.
Yeah.
Because this was this was one that you might think a lot of films like this got dubbed afterwards. But they all use their own voice. And she has a great voice, by the way.
Does.
Fantastic
Beautiful.
voice. But all the different accents are clashing. It makes it.
But it's interesting because they're all at this sort of abandoned, luxurious hotel that's off season, and so in a way it fits because it's like a collection of people from everywhere who are going nowhere, and they're just at this spot.
No, I think it just helps the overall feeling of just something's not quite right.
Yeah.
You know, something's a little off.
Yeah.
It all looks so gorgeous and inviting, but something's just not right here.
Yeah. You feel a little bit lost.
A little
I
bit,
think that's part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Where are we? So that's number 2 on both of our lists. So you know what? That's a good time before we get to the number ones. Let's talk about your alter ego, shall we say?
You know, and also, because she also is a filmmaker.
Oh, I know.
And so we should spend a little time there as well.
Yeah, but we talked about before we actually sort of met this past year at Nightmares Film Festival, because you were a new addition to Nightmares, and I hope it's going to be a continuing addition, because we thought it was not just because we won. We thought it was a fantastic way to get everybody together and have some fun. So talk about your character and your show.
Thank you. Yeah. And so it's funny because we had been at Nightmares Film Festival the year before with our film, the Out There Halloween Mega Tape, which is a sequel to the WNUF Halloween special. And I started talking to Jason about my program Shocktail Hour as Aurora Borealis, and that I would love to be part of the festival, because I think Nightmares Film Festival, I could go on and on about how special it is and what a welcoming, wonderful
we often
place
do.
it is. Oh yeah, it's just phenomenal. And the people you meet, the comfort level that it brings for all of these filmmakers, it feels like coming home. And so I wanted to help create something beyond just all of us watching and enjoying each other's films, but places where we could have some fun together. And Jason was totally on board, which was wonderful. So I brought my Tournament of Terror to Nightmares Film Festival, which was a live game show. But typically what I do for my shows is more of a traditional horror hosting program where I do segments. I always make a cocktail and a mocktail for my shows. I've been partnering with Terror Vision for a little while now for some of their Blu-ray and DVD releases, where I'm doing a special bonus feature of full episodes of Shocktail Hour for some of their titles, like Cannibal Campout, What Happens Next Will Scare You, President's Day coming up. And that's been great fun. So I hope to continue doing that. But for me, Shocktail Hour is all about creating a fun experience for people who are into horror but want to enjoy it in a slightly different way. We do a lot of sketch comedy sort of things with it, a little bit beyond the typical horror host, where we're mixing things up and not just showing the same public domain movies that I think a lot of horror hosts get sort of pigeonholed into having to do just because of cost, you know?
Sure.
So we try to bring something new to it. So I have a DVD out that's more of a party tape approach, where we're remixing old movies and doing sketches and the cocktails and things like that.
Well, I thought it was a perfect mix, a perfect addition to Nightmares Film Festival or any sort of film festival like that, because it's just a nice break. You know, we're watching these great films and everything, and that's why we're there. But then let's get social for a little bit. Let's have a little fun.
Yeah, for sure. But let's talk a little bit about your films too, because they are fun as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So I actually just directed my first feature this past year, and I wish I could talk about it more, but it hasn't been officially announced or in post production now.
Okay.
But prior to that, I've been working as a producer on films that my husband, Chris LaMartina, has directed. So Out There, Halloween Mega Tape, What Happens Next Will Scare You, both horror comedies. So we really gravitate toward horror comedy because of that fun aspect of it, and I love horror. I love all kinds of horror, everything from gory slasher stuff to psychological horror. But I feel like horror comedy is always just this light, wonderful little cake, where it's like it's horror, yes, but you're also in this heightened sense of ridiculousness a lot of the time, whether it's through characters or through the situations you're in. I know that you guys are also horror comedy makers.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen Obstacle Corpse. It's very enjoyable.
Oh,
thank
you.
But it's sort of like that juxtaposition of like laughing and screaming, right? There's sort of two sides of the same coin, where it's just this like emotional release, but you're playing with sort of how those two things can be related and live in the same world, which is a lot of fun, and I think always a challenge.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I remember first of all, I remember from the first time we saw you at Nightmares years ago when you were there with your film that you were dressed like candy corn and were the cutest human being I had ever seen. And then also how the audience reacted to your film, because it's just a joy and people loved it.
They did.
I'm so glad to hear that. That makes me so happy. I love the movie. It was so much fun making. We made that one during the pandemic. We were chugging right along, leading right up till everything shutting down. We had a big crowd scene. My character, Ivy Sparks, her talk show. We were all set to film that. We had it scheduled for that spring. 50 to 75 extras as the audience, all of this. And of course, that didn't happen. And as the pandemic continued and it got safer to be around people again, we would bring people over and set their wardrobe on our front porch to film stuff outside. They'd get ready in their cars. We'd meet up outside and shoot stuff, progressing all the way up to where we could all safely be together. But it meant that film took like 5 years to make, which was insane. For like a little horror comedy, like found footage movie.
Well, it worked out.
It did.
Yeah, I mean, it worked
Thank
out,
you.
and it's so fun. It's such a fun film, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to meet you. And then, yeah, as George was saying, the Shocktail Hour was so much fun. It was such a great addition to Nightmares this year, and we both said immediately we hope that you come back every year.
Yes.
I hope so too. Thank you so much. I really hope so. I've already bothered them about it. I've bothered Jason and Chris. Like, hey guys, what about next year?
Well,
Can we do it
I
again?
think it was a big hit.
It was a big hit.
It was standing room only in there.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun. I did have to kick people out for talking too much,
That's
but it's
right.
always fun. It's always fun to be a little mean as Aurora.
Well, it's not you, it's Aurora.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
you
right.
know?
You can't be blamed.
And she does not like anyone stealing her spotlight.
Understandable. Okay, good stuff. So we're up to number
Number
one
one.
on each of ours. Okay.
Yeah.
What's at the top of your
So-
list over there?
My number one. So Countess Bathory was going to be my number one. And then as I started listing everything, I thought, oh no, I think she gets edged out by this one. And this one, some people think that this movie is not horror. I think it is horror. It's going on my list. So Helen Mirren's last look as Georgina in The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. Another film that start to finish has amazing fashion in it. Of course, Jean-Paul Gaultier is the designer of it, so you would expect nothing less. But that final look, she's finally come into her own. She's wearing this gown that looks like a cage, but is the exact opposite of what has been happening with her character. So there's this beautiful irony to what she's wearing. It has this feather collar to it. And then, as if it can't get any better, there's an attendant holding this long train behind her. So this cage dress continues behind her, and every move she makes is countered by this attendant holding onto her dress. It's just a stunning, powerful image of this woman who has endured such abuse and such tragedy and heartbreak to just stand tall, come into her own, and take complete charge of the situation in the last scene of that movie. It's just absolutely electric. It's show-stopping. This woman claiming her power. The dress is like so impractical because she has to be followed by this other person the entire time, but it's like such high impact. I feel like it belongs at number one for me because it is breathtaking when you see it for the first time. You think that the fashion in that movie has already reached a pinnacle, particularly with the way that as characters move into different spaces on the set, their wardrobe, particularly Georgina's, will change color. It's the same exact dress, but it changes color moving through these spaces. And you think, oh, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Can't get better than that. And then that dress hits the screen and you're floored.
And of course, it doesn't hurt to have it worn by the commanding presence of Helen Mirren.
Yeah, she's a goddess. And this movie knows it, you know?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, and that when she comes out at the end, you're right, and she's just like, I own this world, and look at me in all of my glory. Yeah, there's not much that you've ever seen in your life as gorgeous as Helen Mirren in that last dress.
Yes.
And you're right. I mean, the way fashion works throughout that, and I would not have originally thought of this as a horror film, but it is a cannibal film. So
right,
I think there you go.
Yeah, where it ends up. Yeah.
And you're right. The fashion throughout this movie and the way they use it. You know, it's just not just eye candy. I mean, they really use it to make specific statements as the movie progresses. Is just fascinating. I love this pick.
That's a great pick. Sort of a little bit of in from left field, but totally works. At number one. So, and that takes.
And I think there's some good gore in that movie too that I think edges it. You know, there's some violence and murder in that movie that I think edges it also into horror. Plus, I mean, it's a horrifying situation all the way around. Yeah. So I say it counts.
I think so.
We definitely say it counts. What counts for us at number one?
Well, Hazel Court, and I as Juliana in The Mask of the Red Death.
Yeah.
So I could have chosen about 7 different Hazel Court looks from about 5 different movies, and I bounced back and forth between the red dress in The Mask of the Red Death, or the green one, because this emerald green one is also just stunning on her. But because the red dress is the climax of the film, and like the anguish that she has as she's wearing it, and she's so much when she has this on, it's this floor-length, shoulderless, beautiful gown. And she does so much more with her body when she's in this dress. She reaches her arms out in desperation, and then of course she's all red herself at one point. I just thought that it was the drama in with her in this dress was just spectacular. It's another Roger Corman, and it is another one where the fashion throughout is just eye-popping.
Oh yeah, because you've got a teenaged Jane Asher in there as well with a bunch of gowns.
Well, and then also just this orgy, this party, and from room to room, and the way the color scheme is so masterfully brought into this. It's funny because Roger Corman did a shit ton of Poe films, and almost none of them.
I think.
Almost none of them have anything to do with the source material. And I think that The Mask of the Red Death, to me, seemed like the hardest one to actually turn into a film, and I think that he keeps it closest to the source material. I think Mask of the Red Death is the closest to an actual translation of Poe than any of the other Roger Corman Poe films. And of course, Vincent Price is perfect in this role. He's just wonderful.
I think he starred in all but one of them for Roger Corman. All the Poe movies he made, almost all were Vincent Price.
Yeah, that sounds right. I love Usher as well, and the Follow House Usher, and that has one good gown, but it's not good enough to have made this list. But I think Hazel Court, she's another just classic, and she wore things. She wore them. It's like you put that dress on somebody else and you might not recognize how regal the dress really is, but Hazel Court knew how to wear a gown.
That's another good reminder that it's not just the gown, but who's wearing it helps too. Yeah, good point. So that is our number one, the red gown and the Mask of the Red Death, and boy, that's a good list. That's a good piece of fashion week.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Thank you.
What a blast.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun, and one that we probably wouldn't have thought of.
No.
So see, we get these great ideas from
That's
the
right.
guests.
Well,
so we love that.
we're fashionably challenged.
We are.
So.
We are fashionably challenged. And one of us doesn't know what type of gown is another type of gown.
Right.
So,
But
it
thank you
helps.
so much,
Yeah.
Melissa Martina. You brought so much insight that we would have lacked. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
And we talked a little bit about your character and your show, but where can people find you and all your different endeavors?
Yeah, so people can find me at shocktailhour.com. Pick up a copy of that DVD.
Do it.
Show it at your next party. Absolutely. You can follow me at Melissa LaMartina on Instagram or at Aurora_Gorialis on Instagram or Aurora Gorialis on Twitter to see what I'm up to and see where my travels are taking me. Once we actually can announce the film I directed, that'll be the first place that you'll see those. So please stay tuned because I can't wait to share that with the world. I'm chomping at the bit to do so.
Well, we can't wait to hear about it.
That's right.
We can't wait to see it.
And just because I love a good title and a good character name, how did you come up with Aurora Gorialis?
So just love of puns. I came up with a whole list that was tied to different sorts of characters, and so it came down to Aurora Borealis and Betty Batwings. But Betty Batwings would have been a more sort of homemakery, like horror Betty Crocker sort of vibe. But I wanted Aurora to be an undead dame, and to sort of sweep into a room to wear my share of gowns. So that's where I landed with that.
I love it. Well, we're looking ahead to our next Fright Club Live. We're going to be back at Gateway Film Center, Home Away from Home. That'll be Friday, February 9th. And we're going to talk about towns that won't let go.
That's right.
And we're going to show the batshit crazy Wake in Fright.
We are going to show that movie, which I'm very excited to talk about. It came up actually on a podcast, Alcoholics, the Alcoholics podcast not too long ago, and we realized in talking about it, nobody had seen it.
Yeah.
Nobody there in our studio
and that's
audience.
where we live.
Yeah,
you
so
haven't
we're like,
seen
oh, well,
it.
then, that needs to be rectified. So thank you, Chris Hamill, for getting that movie for us. And we have recently been showing a short film in advance of the feature. So we'll do the podcast, we'll show us a little short movie, and then show the feature. And this month, we're going to show our first short feature. We're going to show Godspeed.
A pandemic production,
That's right,
speaking
a
of.
pandemic production.
Yeah,
So.
one
Very
actor,
cool.
one set. Yeah, that was crazy.
And then the next one in the studio will be, of course, our annual Skeletons in the Closet.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at the Oscar nominations.
And the
we're
bad horror movie pass
That's
of
right.
Oscar contenders.
That's
which
right.
we've been doing every year, and that's always a lot of fun
It
because
is.
we can find. This is where usually we focus on good movies. Here we like to find the bad
Oh,
ones.
yeah, the very, very worst that these guys made before they were Oscar contenders,
Right.
for sure.
And there's some fun ones in
Yeah,
there.
there
So
are.
that's what we got coming in the next few weeks. And, of course, you can always find this podcast and everything we're up to on the main website at madwolf.com. Also, you can find us on Twitter. It's Fright Club Pod. We've got a dedicated Fright Club Podcast Facebook group at Fright Club Podcast on Facebook.
And
So
we're on Instagram now.
we are on Instagram. Yes,
right.
you just got us on Instagram.
That's right, at Fright Club Live.
So we're all over.
We are.
We're all over. And, of course, Mad Wolf Columbus on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. That's right. I take care of the Threads. See, we have to divide and conquer with
We
all these
do.
social medias.
Yes.
The point is, you can find us plenty of ways,
That's
and
right. Just Google
we
it.
hope you will. We hope you will. So, Aurora Borealis, Melissa LaMartina, thank you again. This has been so much fun.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I love thinking about films that I love in new ways. So this was
Yes.
a good opportunity for that.
Yeah,
Exactly
it really
right.
was. It was.
Exactly right. So look up Melissa and Aurora Borealis, and we hope to hear from you as well. And until next time, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
This is Melissa LaMartina, aka Aurora Borealis. Stay frightful, my friends.